Welcome everyone to another episode of the world's greatest news and reviews. I'm Captain Mal.
Well, I'm still Weapon 2, and welcome back to the future, people. I mean, I'm a little disappointed. By this time, we were promised that we'd have flying cars and be able to travel through an intersecting web of tube traveling devices. It's a big letdown.
Yeah, where are our hoverboards, bro?
We were promised all kinds of things.
By 2015, right?
Time magazine in 1966 said by this time, we would all be rich, and robots would do all our work. We would have to do almost nothing, and we would all be having the equivalent income of $300,000 a year. That's what Time magazine promised us, some futurists.
I just want some robots. That's all I want.
Big letdown.
All right, welcome to the video, and today we're going to be giving you our top 5 worst movies of 2019. Be sure to check out our top 5 best movies of 2019. And as always, any movie that we talk about, if we did a review for it, we will link it in the comments in the description. Oh no, we'll link it in the description of this video on the YouTubes. And yeah, Weapon 2. Let's just get right into it. What did you hate?
What did I hate? My 5th worst movie for 2019 was Glass. Now, I was probably more indifferent than I hated this movie. It's kind of hard for me to come up with because, you know, when I talk about these movies...
Yeah, you don't hate anything.
I'm a little more kind to the movies than you are probably some of the time. And so, but as far as movies that I thought were the least good, this was not the worst. It was on my list as the 5th to the worst. And it was, for me, this... I would have liked to have seen them try to build this universe that they eventually started doing kind of closer to Unbreakable and kind of made it more a little cohesive and intersecting instead of waiting like 20 years to get these other movies. I appreciated a different take on the superhero thing. I thought it was a little more slow and not as interesting to me than many of the other superhero movies that we're used to. I like some of the scenes. I thought some of them were pretty cool. The biggest thing about this movie was it kind of excited me when it looked like they were going into some more movies, some more sequels about what direction they were going to go. It was crazy that they, spoiler, killed off all their characters.
Yeah, it was like, fuck our universe.
So that was pretty straight. That was a really bold move.
Yeah. See if it pays off, Cotton.
But I mean, to see what they would do in the next one, I'm interested to see. But geez, of all the movies that there were a lot more that were kind of middle of the road for me and better. So that's what I thought.
So I feel okay. So Glass isn't on my list, but it would definitely be an honorable mention. And I'm kind of right there with you that it was just disappointing. It was like it had so much hype, so much excitement, so much buildup, and didn't quite stick the landing. Which is interesting because my 5 through 3 are all kind of similar in that I don't really think any of them are necessarily bad movies. Mm-hmm. They were just very disappointing because I feel like each one had the potential to be something good. So that starts me with number 5, which is Rambo Last Blood. Now, if you watched my review
which I
of that,
didn't see.
You did not see, but if you watched my review, and I know you did, Weapon 2.
I did watch.
Hopefully all of you did too.
Yes, of course I did.
Part of the reason that movie was disappointing is because its predecessor, Rambo, from 2006, was phenomenal. Mm-hmm. That movie was an amazing modern Rambo movie. And I kind of felt like this wasn't going to be as good, but I needed it to be in the same ballpark. And this is such a step down in storytelling and character and even action. The entire thing felt hollow and boring. I never thought I'd be bored in a Rambo movie. So, yeah, the entire thing was disappointing. I just say don't even watch it. If you haven't seen any of the Rambo movies, obviously watch the old ones. But if that's not your thing, watch Rambo from 2006. That is a fantastic movie that stands on its own as an individual movie. You really don't need anything else. So, yeah, that's my number 5. Weapon 2, number 4.
Number 4 for me was Alita Battle Angel.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was mildly interesting. It was a story.
It was definitely a story.
Battle robots. There's a lot of it that was just kind of not that great story. I think they wasted. Who was the actor that was the bad guy in this? Do you remember?
Ajax Francis from Deadpool.
Yes, they wasted him by almost not using him at all.
Also, Edward Norton shows up for like one shot at the very end for no reason.
Yeah, I think this movie could have been way better.
Jennifer Connelly does fuck all.
If they would have got to the rich people, whatever you call it, city in the sky, and got there and did something up there, I think that would have been more interesting and maybe just gave it a little more.
I feel like they crammed way too much into that. There should have been a series on Netflix. Like they crammed way too much into 2 hours.
Yeah, I think there was just too much trying to build this world, show everything that's going on. I mean, I would have been. You want to see what's going on in this city, in where all the rich people are, and maybe they were hoping that was where you're going to get with the sequel. But I don't think it made very much money, and so I don't know if it's ever going to be a sequel. So we never get to see that part that everybody's like, "Oh, what's it like up there?" So I don't know. It was just all right.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't hate it. It was just kind of that would also be an honorable mention. Okay, number 4 for me, Gemini Man. Another one I
didn't see it.
Another one I reviewed solo, but almost for the same reasons we talked about these two movies is. A really interesting premise that they dropped the ball hard. Great cast. Will Smith is the lead in this movie, and he's always fantastic and charismatic and great and everything. But the story feels straight out of the 90s, which it totally is because the script was written in the 90s and just kind of retooled. The problem with this movie is, aside from being just a boring, generic action, like spy action movie, the movie heavily leans on the CGI gimmick of having young cloned Will Smith versus like older Will Smith. And they didn't do de-aging. They just completely rebuilt a CGI version of Will Smith from the ground up. The problem is, if it's really, really dark and it's just the right angle, it looks good enough. Most of the time, it looks terrible. And they have shots that are in direct daylight and right next to real Will Smith, and it looks terrible, like fucking terrible. So that will just take you right out of the experience of the movie. Which, if it was an engaging story and like you were compelled and like really into it, you could look past the shitty CGI. Or if the movie was okay, but the CGI was brilliant, you could look past the flaws in the movie. But when they're both bad, the movie is just terribly, terribly, terribly disappointing. So yeah, again, another movie that I thought that I wanted to like, but just really missed the ball. So, weapon 2, number 3.
Number 3 for me, Terminator Dark Fate.
Oh.
So for me, it was just a big letdown for this movie that they seemed like they pinned a whole lot of hopes on this, of us making it feel like we're right back to, Terminator 1 and 2. And it just was just too much of trying to remake the old movies without enough imagination and creativity to make it interesting. I mean, even so much as the Terminator robot that's in this one keeps breaking apart into both of the other Terminator robots, the T-800 and the T-1000. So basically it looks like both of those in the same movie. So, geez, they're just trying too hard, and it fell flat for me on this movie.
Somehow, when scrolling through our reviews to pick this list, I completely overlooked Terminator Dark Fate.
Oh, you overlooked the movie too. Interesting.
That totally would have weaseled its way on this list. I'm not going to bump anything just for the sake of having our list be a little bit different. I just want to say, yes, I agree. That was a terribly disappointing movie. You remember how when I was talking about the 2009 Star Trek reboot that I thought J.J. Abrams did a great thing in still paying homage to the fans, the hardcore fans' original lore by not changing it, just saying this is an alternate timeline and all that. Mm-hmm. This movie does the exact opposite. It just gives a big fuck you to the old movies. And it's like, yeah, none of that shit ever happens at all. What we're going to tell you now is way better. And it's not. It's the same rehashed bullshit, just done worse. Watch Terminator 1 and 2 and then stop there forever. So
yeah. I mean, you just can't keep telling the same story over and over again. I mean, and at least in what was the one when they tried to go to the
Terminator Salvation. Yeah, at least it tried to be different.
At least that tried to be a good movie and be different and tell an extension of the story. This one was just trying to do the same thing again. So
yeah, lame, weak movie. Didn't like it at all. All right, so my number 3 then is Brat Burn. The Brat Burns.
Y'all hear that? Brat Burn.
And again, a movie that isn't bad, but just is terribly disappointing to me because those trailers made that movie look amazing. It looked straight up what would happen if Superman, as a child, just said, fuck it, I can do whatever I want, and I'm going to murder anyone who pisses me off. And this movie drops the ball in a lot of ways. One, the pacing's terrible. It's slow as shit. You don't get endeared to any of the characters. And I thought it was going to do a really interesting thing and examine the morality of a godlike character living amongst us. And that this little kid slowly realizes, why do I have to say or do anything that these people tell me to? They're fucking ants compared to me. Like, and see the deterioration of the moral line that he has that stops him from being a shitty person, and little by little realizing, oh, fuck it, I'm going to take this entire place over. Not because he's evil, but because he fucking can. I thought that would have been an amazing story, but no, they go with the spaceship is sending him messages to burn it all down or some shit. And they took the easy, lazy way out, and from a writing standpoint, it was still interesting enough, but he doesn't even, like, all the really creepy action moments are shown in the trailer. Like, as we talked about during our review, the coolest part of that movie was the end when they were showing the news footage of stuff that he was doing after the fact. And it was just, for how excited I was, it was a disappointment, and it was kind of boring to me.
Okay.
Yep.
Sounds good. I feel the same way. I had way high, maybe I had too high hopes for it. And I think it was the letdown part that made it work.
We did overhype ourselves, if we're being totally honest. But whatever. How dare us think a movie's going to be good? Shame. All right, number 2. Yeah.
Dark Phoenix.
Ooh.
Dark Phoenix for me was a movie that Fox just said, well, let's just get this over with. We're done with this. Let's just put out a movie, a X-Men movie. What's the minimum we can do to justify this thing and just get it over with? And that's what it looked like. That's what the makeup looked like. That's what the story felt like. Was just get this done. We're done with these people. They're going back to Marvel. And so that's what it felt like to me. And so, in a world of where they didn't make great X-Men movies anyways, it was just a lackluster finish for him.
All right, so I'm a studio, and I made a movie back in 2006, and the vast majority of people did not like this movie. It is universally despised as the, or if not the one, if not the second worst movie in my entire franchise. Now, what I'm going to do is I decide, instead of coming up with a new story that hasn't been told based on the wealth of source material I have for this franchise, I'm just going to get the same writer to write the same story, except I'm going to also let him direct it. Does that sound like a winning formula to you?
Does not sound like a very good idea.
Yeah, it's not. Fox. My number 2 is also Dark Phoenix because of what I just said, because of what Weapon 2 just said. That movie fucking sucked. It was terrible. Everything was half-assed. Everything was even the costumes, like we talked about in our review. Everything looked lazy. It's like nobody gave a shit anymore. None of the actors give a shit.
Can anybody make a costume? Let's just make some type of a costume and put it on them. I don't even care what it looks like. Just
is that a black bomber jacket? Fuck it. Paint a yellow X on it.
Some type of an X. That's good.
Who gives a shit? Just do it.
Done.
You realize we're all fired, right? Like, what the fuck do we care? Yeah, that's exactly what that movie felt like. Watch our review because that's actually very entertaining because we were so pissed at it at the time. Now I'm just defeated and don't care anymore. So, yeah, my number 2 is also Dark Phoenix. Weapon 2, number 1. Worst movie of 2019.
Boy, I tell you, it's Hellboy. You took a excellent, what I felt for a off-brand comic book, kind of maybe a cult following character, but they were building a following. The movies were getting more and more, making more and more money, doing really good. And talk about this is what makes this so bad, is because you have a winning franchise going on with this, with Lionsgate. I think that's who made that. And it was winning. It was doing better. It was making good money for what it was. And they just somehow, in some crazy imaginary world that they had going on in their boardroom or something, decided that this franchise, Hellboy, was going to make $1 billion.
We need that Avengers money, son.
And the only problem is Ron Perlman
and Guillermo del Toro.
And so we'll just get rid of them, and then we'll just bring in David Harbour, who's a great actor. But geez, talk about putting these people in a bad position, because they got a really, really good character and director and an actor in this thing, and now been building a following, and then you slap the fans you have in the face. You say, "Hey, are you a fan of this? Really? Let me slap you as hard as I can, and we'll just make this movie." So on top of ruining a good thing, you do this, and then the story is all over the place. The CGI is bad.
No, it's not bad. It's atrocious. It is offensive. That's the worst fucking CGI I've seen in a movie.
And, geez, what in the world? What in the world? When do you take something that's working and people enjoy, and it's on the rise, it's getting better and better, making more, because it's all about the money, right? It's a business. You're making more and more money every single movie, and then you go, I just don't think it's enough. What could the problem be? Maybe the director and the actor will just scrap it, throw it away, and just say, here, take this. What a mistake. That was the worst mistake this year by far. That movie right there.
So, here's the thing about Hellboy. Hellboy came out early in the year, February, March, some shit like that. And I remember leaving the theater saying, last year we did a top 5, or we did top 3 best movies of 2019. We're going to see more movies this year, so we're probably going to do a top 5 or 3 worst movies of 2019. So far, Hellboy's the front runner for number 1, but it's early. There's going to be a lot of crappy movies that come out. There's no way it's going to hold that spot. Well, congratulations to you, Hellboy, because the only successful thing you did this year was maintain your spot as my least favorite, most annoying, shitty movie of 2019 for a full year.
Right.
That's not nothing.
Congratulations.
That's not nothing. My number 1 is also Hellboy. And
that's quite an accomplishment.
Holy shit, that movie failed on every conceivable level, to the point where that movie was hilarious, but not on purpose.
For all the wrong reasons.
That movie was so funny. That might have been the
reasons.
funniest movie. But I remember distinctly watching the first scene when he's fighting that disgustingly bad CGI vampire.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting there like, are they fucking with me? Like, did I eat an edible that I don't remember eating or something? Like, am I high? Like, did I get a contact high? Like, why? This can't really be. This isn't the way this movie opens. And then it got worse. And then it got worse and worse and worse. Everything about that movie was fucking terrible.
I remember we were so hard on this movie in
the trailers.
We were watching the trailers. Yeah. And then I said, you know what? When I go in this movie, I'm going to change my attitude. I'm going in this movie. I hope it's good. I'm going to expect that it's going to be good. That was the mindset I went in. And then when I was in there, I was constantly asking myself, is this movie really as bad as I feel like it is?
Spoiler alert, yes.
Or is it just me? I kept asking me. I was trying to check my reality. And I was like, this movie.
Well, because
is
if
bad.
you remember, we saw it separately, but I also told you that I liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
and
you were kind of like mine.
Like,
you were like,
what
what
is going on with this guy? I was like, oh my God, we are not seeing the same movie. But yeah.
Right. Well, and I guess as you could tell by watching this video and our best of, we seem to be on the same page for the most part with most of our movies. Look, you're right. You tend to be a little nicer. I'd be a little bit more hard. But that's why we're the best yin and yang, sir.
Okay. Yeah.
But yes, Hellboy is terrible. Don't watch it. Watch it for free if you want to get love. Get drunk and just roast the movie. That's the only way I ever recommend watching that movie. That is pretty
for
terrible.
free.
For free.
And while you're drunk.
Don't ever
for
pay
fun.
for it. But yeah, that is our...
With the lowest expectations you could possibly have.
Watch it in the same mindset that you would watch Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
They're about on the same level. You can get humor out of them if you try. But that is our top 5 worst movies of the 2019's Weapon 2. Any closing thoughts?
No. Hey, you know what? I just love watching the movies. I can't wait. We got a lot of good movies coming out in 2020. Can't wait to watch them and talk about them.
Yeah, a lot of cool stuff coming your way. If you've enjoyed this video, thank you for joining us on this episode of the world's greatest news and reviews. If you've enjoyed, be sure to like and subscribe.
Peace.